Let me give you some of the context for the prophetic utterances we will investigate. In Canaan, or ancient Israel, after the death of King Solomon, the Promised Land was split into two kingdoms, Israel or Samaria in the north and Judea in the south. The first prophet we will investigate is Amos, known as the prophet of doom. Take a few minutes and read what Amos is saying in the chosen passage. Back in the pre-corona days, one of you eager students might jump at the chance to read prophetic utterances. In other cases, I would plead with the young ones for a volunteer. Now, Amos is addressing the northern kingdom. You can tell from your reading what Amos is saying sounds like complaints, an ancient rant. One key role that prophets play is to scold and warn about bad behavior. You can probably see from this passage that the tribes in the northern kingdom are behaving badly. These are the types of complaints that would fit in with modern contexts like Occupy Wall Street or other circumstances where the poor are being exploited by the wealthy. At this time, there were issues with landlords and abusing the poor. With this beautiful and vivid imagery, Amos is raging against the injustice of the wealthy. There is a verse that I'm sure caused you innocent young people to run from your computer screens. How perverse of Amos to state, "Father and son go to the same girl, a profanation of my sacred shrine." Besides noticing that he is speaking in the third person, remember, God is speaking through the prophet. Is Amos speaking about some kinky, dastardly deed between three people? When you're older, you will learn that there's a French term for this. But Amos is probably not referring to that dastardly commingling. In the pre-corona class, I would pick out a young student and give him a name like Jed, and tell him about how he is so tired trying to create and maintain a fertile farm. To help, maybe Jed goes to one of those sacred Canaanite temples in the morning to be with one of the sacred women. Now Jed's son, Jimbo, feels sad for his father, having to work so hard to put food on the table. While Jed is taking his afternoon nap, maybe Jimbo will sneak away to the Canaanite temple. He might find himself with the same sacred woman to help his dad's farm. So that verse is probably not referring to a risque threesome, but is a reference to sacred prostitution. So Amos is doing one of the things prophets do. They complain. They tell the bad news. So what is the punishment for such bad behavior? Well, in the northern kingdom, there was a looming threat from a foreign power, the Assyrians. If the northern kingdom does not act justly and follow the commandments given to them, they will be punished. What will happen is that they will be taken over by another kingdom. And this is what happened. The Assyrians would take over the northern kingdom, and all of the northern tribes would be lost to history. This is where we get the classic phrase some of you might have heard, the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Also think about these questions. What gives Amos the right to complain? Well, he's a prophet, a mouthpiece of God. He can't help but utter the dictates of God. Here's another question. The rich taking advantage of the poor. What else is new? Everybody does it throughout history. Well, they are not supposed to do it. They are supposed to be in covenant with God. Remember, I told you to keep in mind the nature of the covenant. Oh, back in the pre-corona classroom, I would sometimes give my classes a Hebrew National challenge. Some of you might know that Hebrew National is a company that makes various kosher meat products. For those students that like hot dogs, I would ask them over the weekend to compare a Hebrew National hot dog to, say, a Bar S or a Ballpark Frank. Pretty consistently, the students would admit that the Hebrew National hot dogs tasted a lot better. I would then mention the commercial that Hebrew National aired many years ago. It had their logo going toward the heavens, and a voice would say something to the effect that, "You ask why we can't make our meats like other companies. It is because we answer to a higher authority."